back. It's me, Brittany Hislop with Here. Let me help you. Okay, one of these has to be good. If not, I'm literally gonna die. Okay, bye. Welcome back, guys. Welcome to Here Let Me Help You, the podcast.
We're back.
We have our first return guest.
Return guest.
What's going on, guys? Good to see everybody. Love to be back.
MC Stone, welcome.
He's in the house.
Michael.
MC Stone.
What's up?
Stony Baloney.
We're back. We took a week off. We're back from our hiatus. We were on vacay. And so we figured we'd jump back in with some.
Where'd you guys go?
Mexico.
Oh, yeah, for Tia's
Vallarta.
wedding, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's that?
It was good.
Good
It was fun.
I did see some shorts on that.
Yeah. Highly recommend.
And you told me somebody.
We looked hot.
In one of the stories of somebody threw up in the pool.
Yeah.
A
There was
youngin'.
these kids that
Was
puked.
oh yeah.
Holy shit. And then
We were tripping shrooms that day.
Oh, shit.
The
I
whole
didn't hear
day.
about that
I
part.
didn't put that in the video, but yeah, then this kid starts like puking in the pool. He's like 18. And these kids prior the night before
Dude.
had this GoPro strapped to their chest and they were like vlogging the entire like spring break trip. Anyways, we had a really good time with their friends.
Awesome.
We
It was
did.
a good time with their friends and it was a much necessary trip away. Highly recommend taking a trip with your
Vacation.
friends. Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, where we stay again? The Hyatt, right?
Yeah, some
Oh,
Hyatt
what?
Ziva.
Hyatt.
Nice.
It was an
dude.
all-inclusive.
All-inclusive resort, dude.
Dude, that's awesome.
And then me and Brittany we were that couple that was walking around. We're like all inclusive, and we didn't bring any extra cash. So like all the servers that were like serving us drinks and food.
Yeah, they
or
weren't
we're
getting
sitting
tips.
No, we weren't
I'm
tipping
like,
them.
no, you need to tip that.
It's all inclusive.
I was not
They were
walking
like,
around
back,
not
they're
caring.
like, they were like, "Oh, you're leaving? Like, how was my service? Was it good? Thank you, brother. Like, we hope you have a good day." And we're like, "Yeah, we're out. Like, thank you."
That's how it goes. They're ready for that.
Yeah,
They make it up elsewhere.
you know, it's
They
all
had a good
inclusive.
buffet.
They were just serving the poor Americans at
Yeah.
the spot. You know,
I got you.
we tipped
We're
them,
all
though.
poor Americans the way it's going.
Yeah.
with the tariffs. Too.
Yeah, with the tariff.
Yeah. So we decided to just dive right back in. We're here to talk about the tariffs.
Yeah, Trump's tariffs,
Right.
which has been wild.
But I don't know anything about them. That's why we have Stone here. Well, that's not true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know very little.
Same.
Yeah,
And-
I'm working on incomplete information too. You know, we all are. And I think that's what one of the things that's making the tariff so controversial is like you have the Trump is God camp and then you have the Trump derangement
well,
camp, right? So and
let's define it.
Yeah, let's define it.
First.
Let's go.
We're
Let's
gonna look up
define our
tariffs.
terms.
That's the word of the week. So before we jump too far in,
Yeah, for sure.
before we let Stone go down and
Off
teach
the
us
deep
all,
end.
yeah,
Down the rabbit hole.
let's define
There's
what a
nothing down
tariff
there.
is. Well, because I saw this study or this thing came from Wealth. I sent it to you. So it says on this Wealth, the Wealth dot, what is it? At Wealth.com. I don't know. Instagram, Wealth. It's okay.
Sorry. I got situated.
Where's our guest going?
You should not have let me add 2 White Claws.
Oh,
I'm
that's your
wasted.
third.
It says only 45% of Americans identified what taxes and tariffs on imports actually were. 23% admitted they did not know, and 17% followed President Trump's idea that exporting countries pay the bill. Basically,
Nobody
everyone's
knows what a
confused.
tariff is.
Okay, so what's the definition right
So
here?
we're gonna, that's what we're doing.
Just define the term. And
We're
then,
defining
I'll
and then-
make- I'll-
and then we're
I'll
gonna
tell
talk.
you really what it is.
All right, so
Okay.
tariff is a scale of duties imposed by a government on goods imported or exported. The duty imposed any scale of rates or charges. Example, for accommodation in a hotel. That-
yeah. So
So
Mary,
how about this?
There you go.
It's an import tax.
yeah.
It's an
Import
import
export tax.
If China wants to come here and sell products in the United States, they might have to pay a tariff on that. You could call it 5%, you know. So
Or
that's an example.
145%.
That's where we're at now. Yeah. Well, boy, things have escalated. But yeah, it's
Yep.
just an import tax, you guys. That's
Okay.
Yeah,
all
it's
it
like an
is.
extra cost on being able to ship and sell goods overseas.
There it
basically.
is. There it is.
Yep. It's pretty simple. It's not too complicated.
No.
But messing with them has large effects on
Yeah, so like,
countries'
what is
economies.
the point? I guess the point that I think I guess like if someone's sitting at the dinner table and then they are trying to be smart and talk about the tariffs, like what are the bullet points that they need to know? Like what are the tariffs doing? Like what is the effect that they're having? And we can
Kind of go from there.
We can go from there. Yeah.
Yeah. So what Trump would tell you is that there is a trade deficit between the United States, China, the United States, Canada, the United States, Mexico, the United States, Europe. And what he would tell you is we are being, quote unquote, ripped off by all of these other countries. Because what he sees happening, like with China, for instance, which would be our biggest adversary in this trade war, is Trump's watching $500 billion worth of products come from China, get sold in the United States, and then he's watching China only buy maybe $150 billion worth of product from America. So imagine China shows up, they drop off 10 pallets of iPhones, and then all America gives them is like a bag of soybeans and a bunch of U.S. currency.
Mm-hmm.
So if China is selling $500 billion worth of product, which is around there, it's about 450, I believe, $450 billion worth of products to the United States. We'll call it 500 billion to make it simple. And then China's only buying 150 billion worth of product from the United States. That would be a $350 billion trade deficit for the United States and a $350 billion trade surplus for China. And Trump would say, this is a bad thing. Having countries sell to America and be in a perpetual surplus like every year. With China, it's about 350 billion US dollars. With Mexico, it's about 150 billion. With Canada, it's about 20 billion. And with the Eurozone, it's about 300 billion. Trump would say that is all money that should have stayed in America with American families, and it's going to other countries. So Trump would say they're ripping us off. Now, he's kind of hiding the fact that when China does buy, like when China ends up with 350 billion extra US dollars,
Yeah.
they reinvest it back
So,
into our economy. That's where it
Our
gets
stock
nuanced.
market.
Let's
and
simplify it for people. So let's simplify it
Sure.
into like one product, for example. Like we
Okay.
were talking about, like, so we're talking in like as a whole right now, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes I think that confuses people, right?
Okay.
So I think if you like, for example, we were talking about the car the other
Mhm.
day and how that's affecting, like how the price of that, like the price of it being made in China is is much less,
Mhm.
and then for it to be the same thing to be made in America would be much more. But Trump, like, can we break it down into like a common good that people like vehicles for
Sure.
people? We could get then we can go further. Like,
Yeah, we could do it with vehicles. So let's say China has manufactured a truck that costs only $10,000. You, as an American citizen,
To
might be
manufacture
to
in China,
manufacture
right?
and to
Okay.
just for sale, to
Okay,
sell, to
okay.
sell.
right.
So China might have a truck that only costs $10,000, and Americans want that truck.
Mhm.
But Trump is going to get between you and that $10,000 truck and say, no, if you're going to be buying that product off of China, I'm going to be slapping a tariff on it. So
Right.
now that truck that you should be buying for $10,000, you're going to be buying for like $30,000.
Because he thinks that it'd be better invested for us to be doing that on our soil and not be giving China any sort of extra part, like piece of the
100%.
pie.
He wants fair and balanced trade.
Right.
So he's getting upset that China is dumping all this product into the U.S. market, whatever it could be, cars, widgets, it doesn't really matter.
Right. Fidget spinners,
But
everything that
they're selling $500 billion worth of things,
Right.
and then they're only buying $150 billion worth of, say, our soybean or our
right.
oil.
They're not buying as much
So we're
stuff from
not in
America
balance.
because they don't need our shit because everything's already coming from China, right? So
But that's because we don't export anything
right, because we don't make anything really
besides
here.
debt.
That's what Trump would tell you.
Right.
Trump would
But
say
that's-
they've hollowed out our manufacturing.
Right.
They've sent all those factories overseas.
And that's part of the reason why he's doing it too, is to get manufacturing to come back to the U.S.
So
right?
Trump has
That's what he tries to
three
sell.
objectives with implementing these tariffs. The first is to balance out the trade deficit.
Right.
Mhm.
So he doesn't like $500 billion worth of product coming into China and only $150 billion leaving.
Right.
He doesn't like that. He wants China to come sell $300 billion worth of stuff, and then we sell China $300 billion worth
Yeah.
of stuff.
Right.
And if that trade balance is out of whack and we're in a trade deficit and China's
Slap
in a
tariffs.
surplus, he would say that's gutting American industry. That's wealth that's leaving our country.
Right.
We need to make
They
trade
need to be buying
balance.
as much from us as we're buying from them.
There
or
it is.
Mhm.
There
equal.
it is. He does not want Mexico selling way more to us than they're buying from us.
Right.
He wants everything
That's
to
the
be in
goal.
balance. So that's the first thing. He doesn't like trade deficits. He thinks they're a bad thing. The second thing is he wants repatriation of manufacturing
Mhm.
over the long term. So he has watched the areas like the Rust Belt of the United States, like Pennsylvania, Ohio, like all those.
Michigan.
That we used to have a ton of automobile manufacturing plants there. They've all moved to Mexico. They've all moved to China.
Because labor was cheaper.
He's looking to bring some of that back.
Right.
Mhm.
So he wants a balance of trade. He wants to repatriate our manufacturing, and he also wants to use the tariff money, because when Chinese products now come to our border, he has slapped a tariff on it. That is an import tax that we're going to have to pay.
Mhm.
So he takes revenue from that import tax that goes to the U.S. government.
Mm-hmm.
He can use it to pay down the U.S. deficits. He can use it to fund the government and close the $2 trillion deficit with our government.
So I'm sorry. So let me hold on. Just want to make sure I'm understanding this right.
Mhm.
So basically there's like a portion of these tariffs that is being set aside for like the government to just pay their shit back, right?
All of it.
All of it back.
Yeah.
That's like one of the main. That's like, although he's saying it's supposed to help us and bring jobs back, like I think the underlying thing here is like they're really trying to like collect money. But aren't they already collecting money from our taxes?
They are, and now they're telling you that if they implement the tariffs and are collecting money from the tariffs, they're going to give you a tax cut and you a tax cut and me a tax cut.
So they're saying, okay,
they're saying,
right.
We'll see how it all,
they're saying like it's going to eventually,
and that's a new idea.
Okay.
We haven't been doing that.
We haven't done that.
Normally,
before.
Brittany makes a certain amount of money. I make a certain amount of money, and then it's taxed.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, if we're taxing products that are coming from China, we can take that tax revenue and use it to fund our government, and we can actually cut.
But wasn't that the goal was to get rid of federal tax for like a certain tax bracket? Would that be a way to do it? Is by taking that money from the tariffs instead?
And Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, just went on Tucker Carlson's podcast like 6 days ago and said that exactly. He was like, "We want to look to start replacing income tax with the tariffs."
Mm-hmm.
So again, Trump sees $500 billion worth of product coming from China into the United States, and he only sees $150 billion worth of China product coming from the United States and going back to China. That $350 billion trade deficit, he wants that to get shrunk.
Equalized.
Now, he doesn't think he can equalize it completely, but he certainly doesn't want it to keep spreading. He doesn't want it to keep expanding that trade deficit. He wants to start closing the gap.
Wouldn't it be the only way to lower that trade deficit is to kind of like force or bully like manufacturers to like move their plants or their manufacturing businesses from those other countries back to the United States and start making the stuff in the United States so we can actually be
isn't
the
he pissing
exporters
off the other billionaires?
of products.
Like Apple.
And he wants to do that.
Yes.
That's the long term.
Yeah. The tariffs are like
Trump's
a main bully move.
And Trump's going to tell you, I want to repatriate manufacturing.
Mhm.
Does Trump manufacture all his shit here? I want to look that up.
I'm not sure.
He doesn't really manufacture anything besides
What do
like
you mean?
making hotels.
Yeah, but he's got like steaks and all that stuff. He puts his name on. Well, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Make sure it's coming from the U.S. of A.
I don't think he's killing cows in China and sending the meat.
I would
from China
highly doubt
over
that.
here.
What if it's Wagyu?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Imported.
All I know-
Because it's Wagyu doesn't
all
mean
I
it's
know
coming from
is
an
Trump
Asian
Kobe.
country.
All right,
That's just
we're
like
getting
an
sidetracked.
aged of
Shut up!
meat. It's like how aged the meat
I'm
is.
so sorry. We're getting sidetracked.
Wagyu.
No, we're
Yeah.
not going to
Okay,
do
we're
this.
not going
We're
down
not
that
doing
rabbit
this.
hole.
I'm sorry.
But anyway, Trump wants to make the trade deficit smaller.
Right.
So he wants to fair trade.
Right.
He's pursuing
And he's
fair
bullying
trade
these
over free
companies.
trade.
Right.
He wants the trade balances to all be equal. In a
Mhm.
perfect world, he would want everybody sending us maybe $200 billion worth of stuff and then buying $200 billion worth of
Where
stuff.
would you? Okay, I have a couple of questions. Do you think these trade or these tariffs are Do you think it's just basically aimed at China? I mean, I know I
The
know a
main-
lot
the main
of
part,
the
yeah.
stuff that we're getting
For sure.
comes from them. I mean, there's other places like Indonesia and like
No,
Mexico.
he is disproportionately targeting China.
China.
So the tariff is a bit like using a stick. Okay, it really is. So he pulls his stick out and he uses it to nudge Canada. Hey, close this $20 billion trade gap we have. Hey, stop letting undocumented immigrants into the country. He turns around to Mexico, starts prodding with it. Hey, I'm giving you a 10% tariff until you seal up your border. I'm giving you a 10% tariff until fentanyl stops flooding into this country. So he's kind of
Tariffs
using
on what though? Just everything, like their avocados and everything.
Yeah, products,
everything,
you know.
everything. You know,
Stop bringing the drugs over.
So
Or we're taxing your.
what's interesting is
fucking veggies.
he should probably be using tariff policy that targets specific products,
Right.
but he's using it to target countries.
Right. That's why I'm like
So
very confused.
it's getting
And I'm
kind
like,
of personal
Mexico
here.
can't really
Yeah.
can't fight with us the same. Well, they can, but like smaller countries can't beef with us the same way. The way China can. You know?
Right.
They
right.
can't like be like,
Well,
oh,
and
you
Trump
know.
doesn't want to be as malicious and violent with the tariff stick with our allies.
Mhm.
So he only wants to use the tariff stick because it is a stick. It's economic warfare. I mean, it's economic violence, really.
Something.
So
Yeah.
he wants to use the tariff stick to poke Canada into doing what we want and closing that $20 billion trade deficit we have with Canada. He wants to use the tariff stick to poke Mexico into doing what we want, sealing up the borders, stopping the flow of fentanyl, and getting Mexico to buy more things from us. And he wants Canada to buy more things from us. So he's using it kind of as a stick, like, hey, do what I say.
Yeah.
And then what he's using the tariff stick on China is to like crack them over the face.
To like give them
He
lashings.
doesn't want to beat them into the ground and like kill them with it because
No.
he still wants China to come to the table and make a deal with us.
Mm.
But he's certainly being more like unwieldy and crass and obtuse with China than he would be his own allies. So that's why too we have 145% tariff on anything coming in from China, and then it's only a 10% across the board tariff for all other countries.
It just sounds crazy. 145%. What was it at before?
Yeah. So
20 or
so
something.
back in like the 2010s, it was more like a 3.5% tariff on any goods coming from China to be sold in the United States. And then when we would send product to China, China slapped about a 10% tariff on it. And that's why Trump called these last tariffs like about a week ago reciprocal tariffs, because a lot of these countries already had a small amount of tariffs on us.
Right. I was going to say, like,
we
I'm
were in a
pretty sure-
situation like 10, 15 years ago where we had no tariffs. So if you wanted to come from another country and sell product here,
That's a question.
we had no tariff on
Okay.
it.
Mhm.
But then when we would go sell Ford cars to Europe or sell things in China, they were using tariffs. And that's just a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe 5% for Europe, 10% for China.
Why? Because we were just more powerful, so they were trying to make some money off of us?
Because they're emerging economies, they're much smaller economies, and they're trying to protect their domestic manufacturers with tariffs. They were being a little bit
That
more
makes
protectionist.
sense.
They were the little guy.
Mhm.
So they were being a little bit more protective of their fledgling industries that they're just trying to get going.
Mhm.
And to be more protective is anytime the US tried to sell anything in their country, they slapped a tariff on it.
Mhm.
And that was to incentivize the people inside their own country to buy their own domestic
Right.
companies. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
So it's like similar to what we're trying to do, but our tariff is 145%. It's not.
With China only though.
Well,
yeah, only
well,
with
but
China.
Still,
Well,
yeah.
so ours is at 145% for any product coming from China to be sold in the United States. But China's also retaliated recently. So anything we send to China, they're slapping 120 on.
I saw that.
So
Right.
so that's gone to blows. That's ridiculous. Now, anything coming from China, if it says made in China on the tag, it's not going to be 145% more just because the tariff's 145%, because there's a little bit of pass through. Some of those companies eat a little bit of that, but it is looking like anything
Majority of it's passed on to the consumer.
anything you buy at Walmart that says made in China is now about 60 to 100% more.
That was my next question. So how
It's
much
double.
more?
Double.
Double.
It's
So
raising
everything
prices.
So,
that
like-
says made in China on it has doubled. If it was $1, it's $2.
So that's why when he says things like, Oh yeah, and the other countries are gonna pay for it. Like,
yeah.
all that, just
I'd
all
love
that
to check-
propaganda that he says, like
We're
it's
paying
just
for it.
propaganda because literally all it does is raise the prices for us and cause pain for us until those manufacturers
Actually
come
decide
back
to
to the
come
United States
back.
and manufacture in the United States.
Right.
And they're not selling those products from China back to here.
And we're not
anymore.
even convinced they're going to come back to the United States
Nope.
because labor costs are so
So
high.
Like I was just thinking of like from fashion, like Shein, those cheap,
Mhm.
those quick,
Mhm.
fashion where they're like slave laboring children
Have you
in
looked
China.
at the price
I was gonna
differences?
say we should look it up because that's a very inexpensive website where females and men will
Mhm.
buy clothes, and they would be like, I don't know, sometimes $5 a shirt. You'd find stuff for
kind of like a Temu type
correct.
thing.
Same shit.
Right. That's all
Shopping
doubled.
like a billionaire.
Yeah, Temu.
That's all doubled
Let's
in
check
price.
Temu's and prices and
That's
stuff
all
just to
doubled
see.
in price.
That's
more
so
than
interesting.
Like.
More than
It's
like,
going to go up 60 to 100%.
Mhm.
And
Which-
the
and
idea
is to bring that back and not have that be happening anymore.
and it's also to have China go, oh, dang, we really like accessing and selling to the American market. Like, we're dependent on being able to sell to you guys.
right.
Mhm.
And so now that it's impossible for us to sell to you guys, we want to come to the table.
But-
we want to buy more of your stuff.
Yeah.
Because remember, Trump's mad that $500 billion worth of products coming from China to be sold in the United States, and only $150 billion worth of product is going from the United States to China.
Yeah.
That makes Trump angry. Now, what Trump doesn't understand about that is when China walks away with an extra 350 billion US dollars, they're funneling it back into our bond market. They're buying US
Yeah,
stocks.
they're buying US
They're
debt.
buying US debt. They're buying US real estate. So where Trump would tell you, oh, that wealth is stolen, China stole all that, they're gutting our country, it's kind of a half truth because the reality is when they get all those extra dollars, they
They're
just buy
investing in the
Apple.
United
They
States.
just buy Microsoft.
Or they go to Beverly Hills and buy like a $50 million
Yeah,
So it
mansion.
comes-
beachfront
But
property.
then you end
Yeah.
up in a situation where your markets keep going to the freaking moon
Mm-hmm.
and your interest rates stay low because other countries are able to buy your bonds and keep your interest rates. So
Mhm.
borrowing costs stay low, asset prices go to the moon, and all the products that you're bringing into the country stay nice and cheap.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we've been living, right?
right.
We've had the endless subsidy of lower and lower interest rates.
Mhm.
And how come we were able to have such low interest rates? Because of all those dollars we were exporting out into the world were just being recycled back into our system.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
And that's our
but
biggest
Trump
export.
doesn't want to let you know that that's the reality.
No, he
Trump
doesn't wanna
wants
let
to.
you know.
Trump would have you think that every time there's a trade deficit and China's in a surplus and we're in a deficit, it's a bad thing. It's wealth, power, being exported, it's stolen away from America, stolen from the Rust Belt, and given to China. So that's kind of his populist. We gotta, they're screwing us over. We gotta bring manufacturing
sounds
back.
like
we
we're just
need a
bullying
balanced
the
trade.
shit out of
Taking our
They're
jobs.
taking our jobs. Right. That's kind of what Trump wants you to believe. So he wants you to believe trade deficits are bad. He wants you to believe he can fund our government with tariff revenue. And he wants you to believe that ultimately he can repatriate manufacturing back to the United States. So
Yeah.
if he could have his way, it would be fair trade. Not necessarily free trade, but fair trade. There's a good trade balance there. Nothing's out of whack. Nobody's in a permanent surplus or a permanent deficit. So he wants fair trade.
Mhm.
He wants repatriation of manufacturing, and he wants to be able to use that tariff income to fund the government instead of giving you like higher income tax.
Sure.
Mhm.
That's
so
his idea.
now we all understand that he's trying. We've talked about him bullying these big manufacturers to hopefully come back, but like,
right.
what is it going to do to the small companies, like the jewelry mom and pop shops that are making like tea from leaves in Mexico, or like they need the product to make clothes or bracelets or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that going to is it going to ruin these companies?
It's going to be on a case-by-case basis. I mean, I can't imagine owning a company here that's producing everything in China and sending it over. It could totally depend, but
for
what I am
example,
getting
like even
at
if I'm making bracelets, right? I
Right.
like making bracelets.
well,
I need to
your
buy
input
beads
costs
and
went
shit.
up a lot.
All that stuff is made usually.
It doubled.
Yeah, if it's not being made in the US,
So now I have to charge
and the manufacturing
double
of
the
that product
price
is being made in
to
a
make
different country.
my bracelet that now was $10. I have to
Mhm.
charge $20,
Yep.
and no one's buying my bracelet for $20.
80,
So now I'm
80
screwed.
90% of economists do not agree with Trump's policies. 80 to 90% of economists are free traders. They're not going to think tariffs are a good idea.
Yeah.
So if you just want a good starting place, tariffs are generally a bad idea because you can't predict.
Well, up until a couple weeks ago, we didn't even know what the fuck it was. It didn't seem like it was affecting us that bad. But like,
because
But
just
now
because we
prices
put
are gonna
tariffs in
start
place,
rising.
then the other countries can be like, okay, I'm
They
going to
can
do the same
retaliate.
thing.
yeah.
They can
And then
retaliate.
It's just a never-ending,
You can't predict that well.
tit for tat.
You can't predict that well. You can't predict how well this is going to go over with the dollar being the world reserve currency. You can't predict well if other countries will just go elsewhere. So if Trump pulls out his tariff stick and he starts beating Canada with it or just nudging them, he's not really beating them with it. He's just more nudging with them with a 10% tariff. Come to the table, come to the table, buy more of our stuff. When he does that, he could be getting them to he could be inadvertently convincing them to retaliate, so they start hitting us back with tariffs. He could be accidentally chasing them away, so they're like, you know what, instead of just you being a butthole and making it really hard to sell products in America and slapping tariffs all over the products we send, we're just going to find another buyer.
Yeah.
So you can't predict these things well, and that's what people that are generally free traders and against tariffs, which I am, would argue. It's like you can't predict what it's going to do to supply chains. You can't predict what it's going to do regarding retaliation, knock-on effects. You can't predict if that's ultimately even going to bring back your manufacturing. You can't even predict well if it's going to solve the trade deficit.
So
So
is
the
there
data's really mixed on that.
is there a set like term on how long these are supposed to last? It's a TBD, indefinite. It's just
Didn't
like
he say something like it's
week
like a
by
10-year
week?
plan or something
10
like
years.
that? Oh, yeah.
So repatriating manufacturing is like a 10, 15
Yeah.
year.
Okay, but
But
how long is this?
but he could get China and Canada just to buy more of our stuff overnight. I mean, if he
Yeah.
plays his cards right. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the
but what do they
primary
need
thing
of our
he wants.
stuff? What do they need from us? What does Canada need from us?
Soybeans, our agriculture products, maybe
Oh,
Yeah,
some
God.
oil.
but that's not going to
That's
add up to
not-
all the
yeah.
super tech that we
Some-
get from China.
Yeah, nowhere
like
close.
you can't even that out from soybeans and like thanks for all my
and
iPhones.
if we tell Mexico
No,
buy more stuff from us, what's to say they can?
Yeah,
That's
what
the
I'm
other
saying.
thing. Like maybe we can buy.
Maybe
Maybe
they're
Mexico
maxed
can
out.
buy
Yeah, but
20,
like, no,
30
we don't
billion.
even have anything.
Maybe they could. Well, so
They're like, do you got any fentanyl? So we can.
they might be able, they might say something like maybe we'll be able to buy $20 billion worth of extra things from the
Yeah.
United States, but we're never going to be able to make this $150 billion trade deficit zero.
Yeah.
We're never going to have a balance in trade. So, but I think Trump would like that. Again, Trump does not like
But
trade
that's because
deficits.
we don't export
We
anything.
just don't. Yeah, that's sad. That's
we
our
don't
issue.
manufacture
That
anything.
is an
We
issue.
just give out U.S. dollars.
We don't do
export
shit.
dollars.
And the scary thing about that is that a lot of people don't want U.S. dollars anymore.
Yeah,
that's like
scary.
the trend going.
Yeah, that's the scary thing.
That's the scary part.
de-dollarization. And that's what we're seeing.
And I feel like that's kind of part of his plan too, is to like because if we get manufacturing back in this country and we have manufacturing plants and we're exporting again
Mm.
and people actually want to buy our products from the U.S.,
What the hell are people buying
then
from us though?
nothing, because all the
even-
large
I
companies have
know,
all their
but even
manufacturing
when they
in
bring
other
it back,
countries.
like who's gonna trust America's stuff over like China's
Over
stuff?
sweatshops. I mean, it's
I'm
the
just-
same thing.
I'm just saying,
They're
even
just
like
gonna have to pay the
tech wise, like
workers more.
everyone trusts. I feel like everyone's like, oh no, they're better than us. Like,
They're not above or better than us.
I-
They have cheaper labor. That's why they make
Yeah,
it over there.
yeah, that's true.
And a lot of
'Cause they
those
have
companies
sweatshops.
are American companies that just
That's
went
one over there.
Yeah.
It's true.
Exactly, and that's what he's
Yeah.
trying to bring back.
He wants those companies to come back.
and if
That
that
makes
doesn't
sense.
happen, then the trade deficit's never going to be close to equal.
There you go.
I just think
Because
that
there's no, I mean, you can't buy that many fucking soybeans in order to.
I just
Yeah.
think here's my
You
thing.
know what I
You need
mean?
to
Yeah.
be manufacturing something in America that like China is not smart enough or good enough to do.
like Tesla.
And we
Thanks,
try a little
Elon.
bit of that with Silicon Valley.
Mhm.
We kind of have an edge there with AI.
With
but,
AI
but,
and
but
Silicon
what
Valley.
happened? China just came out with DeepSeek.
oh no.
Mhm.
So they're starting to mess with their own
That's my
AI.
thing.
They're starting to mess with. They're doing their own
And it's way
innovation.
cheaper.
yeah.
But generally, we've been able to export dollars, which has been pretty awesome. The world reserve
Mhm.
currency.
That's it.
We have innovation. We have a monopoly on force. So we have the military. We
Oh,
have the
yeah.
trade lanes.
Yep, we have a monopoly on force for sure.
yeah.
So we do have a few things going for us. We have
Weapons?
the biggest market
What
to
about
buy
weapons?
things. Let's talk about the biggest market. China, guys, China wants to sell things here. Like 80% of our economy is just us just buying stuff.
Shit from China,
And China wants to be able to sell to us. Mexico wants to be able to sell. Canada wants to be able to sell to us. So
Isn't
when
our
Trump
main
slaps
oil
tariffs on them, they have a harder time accessing our market and selling to us. And when they can't sell to us,
Then
it is harder for them to find another buyer.
Is oil a big one that China needs from us, or no? They're like, no, we've got enough.
We don't export oil that much.
We
at
don't?
all.
We do some. Yeah, we do some.
But we mainly get most of our oil from the Middle East anyways.
Yeah, we want China to buy more of our agriculture products. We want China to just buy more stuff in general. Trump's admin would say China's in a position right now where they're manufacturing too much and not consuming enough. And America is in a position where we're consuming too much and not manufacturing enough. And it might be in both of our interests to balance that out a little better.
Yeah.
And so Trump's trying to do that. So Trump doesn't like trade deficits. I don't really see the problem that Trump sees in trade deficits because, again, these countries take their extra dollars and just buy Apple stock and our real estate with it anyway. So it's all kind of going to the same place.
Yeah.
Right.
But Trump would say, no, that's China gutting our country, stealing our wealth, stealing our factories.
I just say it's
so
how
we
the
need
world
we
goes
need to have
round.
fair trade. We need to close that gap. We need, for every $300 billion worth of product sold in the United States, we need $300 billion worth of product to leave the United States and go to that country. He would say we're going to use tariffs to raise money for the U.S. government to fund the $2 trillion per year deficit. And he's also going to say long game, we're going to get these companies and manufacturing base to come back to the United States of America. Will it work? That's like the $64,000 question. And the jury's still out on that.
We're going to find out. We're going to be broke and crying on the streets.
We're going to find out one way or another.
Does this affect the housing market?
For sure, because you have like lumber and
trade on all the products.
All the materials to build houses.
Is that not even manufactured in the States either? What the fuck?
I'm not really too sure.
Good question.
The trees have got to be coming from at least the states, like Washington and stuff.
Like
but maybe some of the stuff from concrete. Maybe like some of the stuff.
You could look up all the individual tinier, more specific.
Well, I'm sure a lot of the lights, like the electric stuff that you need, like all that
copper wire and stuff.
Yeah, that probably is coming from China, or the AC units and all those things. That's probably
more
because a lot of that
more than likely.
Manufacturing.
All of our appliances or refrigerators,
like Honeywell, like what they're making, all their plants are probably over in China.
Thermostats.
Now, this brings us to a good point. Another reason why Trump would say we need to implement these tariffs is for national security reasons. So imagine in 10 years, we go to war with China and we need steel, but we don't make steel.
Yeah,
we don't
China
make
makes all
computer
our steel.
chips, and China's making all that. So what Trump would tell you is, look, we need to have a certain amount of steel production in the United States. We need to have a certain amount of car factories in the United States, because let's say we go to war, we can repurpose those car factories into tank factories. Like that's not as difficult to do. Like we just need to tweak our manufacturing a little bit in order to accommodate like production for war materials.
Yeah.
And so Trump would say, we need to have our manufacturing back for national security. We need to have our manufacturing back to replace the Rust Belt. We need to have our manufacturing back so that other countries are buying more of our stuff and not leaving the country with more of our dollars.
Right.
He wants everything to kind of come into a better balance. But again, the problem with that is just right out the gate, 80 to 90% of economists out there do not believe tariffs are a good idea. When you implement tariffs, you're increasing barriers to trade. You're undermining your comparative advantage. So some countries are just better at making stuff than other countries.
Yeah.
But tariffs kind of mess with that. Tariffs can potentially make a pretty big mess. You don't know how the person you're hitting with a tariff is going to respond. Like in the case of China, they retaliated. In the case of Mexico, they might run to another buyer. They might bend the knee and give Trump what he wants. They might reciprocate with their own tariffs. So we just don't know how these things are going to play out. That's another reason why people don't like tariffs. And it's just like what Ryan was saying earlier. You penalize your own people, because where Trump would say, oh, well, they're ripping us off and I'm going to get even for us. He just slapped a huge import tax
my bottom
on
line
every
here.
product that comes from China.
He
to get
already
sold
knows
here.
we're hurting as it is,
So
and
he
he
sh-
was just talking about how Biden effed up our economy and how we have so much debt and all these different
And he
things.
can
Inflation
save you
was
now.
horrible. He was going
Yeah.
to save all of us, and he's like, the way I'm going to do this is by making you guys hurt more.
There you go.
And it's a long-term plan, guys. So stick with me here. But you guys are going to
Propaganda.
literally go like into just like obliteration and just homeless.
Buy half as much stuff until further notice. Yeah,
Which isn't a bad
when he
thing.
swings the tariff club, he also hurts us.
Right. And what I'm afraid
He's like
of,
whacking
Stone,
us with. Ow.
what I'm more
Yeah.
afraid of is because Americans are just so like hell bent on keeping up with the Joneses and just getting the newest, best shit.
Mhm.
Is that it's not going to stop anyone from buying the double
Yeah,
price shit.
yeah.
They're just going to go into more debt. So their
100%.
credit card debt, which is already shitty and probably horrible,
breaking records.
breaking records, is going to double.
Right. So where Trump would say, I'm going to get America to consume less and produce more, Brittany's going to say, no, we're going to go right on producing,
Right.
and we're going to go deeper into debt.
We're just going to
Mhm.
call
And-
MasterCard, get our limit increased, and get another credit
And
card.
I
And you
think
know
you're
who?
right.
And you know who?
I think you're right.
But you kind of know who loves that?
Who?
The Fed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it
Yeah.
keeps everyone down because even though you're
Mhm.
like, even though like
Mhm.
it's like a long term plan to save money, you're now and you're 10 years into extra debt that you're just never gonna ever be able to get out of.
100%.
They just
Yeah,
put in
it's looking-
handcuffs, golden handcuffs.
I
on
don't think the tariffs are a good idea.
It's
I don't
looking
think
pretty bleak.
I don't think government should decide who their citizens are able to do business with and who their citizens are going to be buying what from, who, for how much. Like when you start pushing buttons, pulling levers, and not really understanding what the knock-on effects are going to be, we're going into uncharted territory.
Mhm.
And ultimately, that's what I think these tariffs are doing. I don't like protectionism. I don't like tariffs. I don't really like fair trade as much as I prioritize free trade.
Right.
I kind of like the situation we're in where we just print worthless dollars, send them to other countries, and they send us actual labor and stuff.
Yeah,
Like, I think that's a pretty good gig for us, especially when they're going to just take those dollars and buy Apple stock in
Reinvest
our
into our
markets.
economy.
Right.
Yeah.
Why are we trying to like reinvent the wagon? What's working has been working. I know that it's not like the best for us because we're just giving
But-
money away, but
But
like,
that's
it's
because
what we do
it's-
best.
But
And
that's because in
what
the
free
long
traders
run,
and globalists and the elites would say.
but
I
that's
mean,
because
that
in
is
the
what
long
they
run,
would
that's broken.
say.
That's not going to work.
Now you're
in
starting
the
to sound
long
like
run. Well, I mean, think about it.
Now you're starting to
I
sound
mean,
like Trump.
once all of them say like,
Mm.
"Yeah, I don't want your free
Well,
American dollars anymore. These things
Yeah.
are trash,"
Oh man,
And then
we're
what?
getting to that.
and then we're fucked.
Then
Well,
we're
yeah,
really
so then-
screwed.
Because then all our manufacturing's in all other countries, and now we can't export our number one export, which
No
is
one
just
even wants our
dollars.
dollars.
You
And
said
then,
it.
and then whoever wants to come to war with us, we're like boned.
Because we can't.
Because we
what,
can't-
manufacture.
We can't
anything?
manufacture anything for war,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know. And then
They
All
don't
we
want
got
to
is
do that.
and
soybean.
we're like,
We
oh,
got
the Fed's
soybean.
like,
They
oh,
don't
we'll
want
print
your debt.
$50, and they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, no one wants it
We're not
besides you
using that.
Americans.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then the U.S. dollar is like worse than the peso,
Mhm.
and you're just screwed.
Mhm.
Your whole
'Cause if
monarchy-
the rest of the world
economy-
sells their dollars,
yeah.
they come back.
They'll go back to the rest of
come
the
back to
world
the
will go
United
to a
States.
gold standard or something, or like
Mhm.
get rid of the American dollar.
So that is potentially going to happen. It is still a
That's
ways
like a
off.
worry in a long run.
That's the long run because the U.S. dollar still has the world reserve currency status.
And let's be real, like we have, like you said, like it is a good gig for us, but we've been running this good gig for a long time, since like what, the 70s,
Certainly
since after World War
yeah.
II,
Yeah, after World War II.
pretty much.
Yeah, we set everything up the way
We're
we
like,
wanted.
okay, yeah, we won't do anything. We'll just give you the American dollars because we're the king of the
Mhm.
world, and you guys just do everything for us, and we'll just buy it off. You
And
guys,
we'll give
you guys
access
do all
to
the
our
labor.
markets, and we'll buy all your stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll give you dollars.
Yeah.
And you can just invest them back into our markets. And
because
that's
we're the
game we've been
coolest.
playing.
Yep.
Yeah, and so
And it's been a good shtick.
it has, unless you go talk to somebody in the Rust Belt who's going, Ryan, I had a great job making cars.
lost my job.
Yeah, and now I'm at 7-Eleven, or I'm in a hollowed out service sector
Right.
economy because I lost my great manufacturing
I'd
job
say
when Mexico opened up. an
Go
auto
get a
plant.
different job. Try
Okay.
YouTube.
And a lot of people would say that. They'd say,
Don't
I
try
don't
it.
want to work in a sweatshop.
Rough
Climb.
out here.
They'd say, make a podcast.
Yeah.
They'd
Yeah.
say, you can work in the Nike sweatshop, or you can make a podcast,
But
be
how
an American,
saturated
and
can
elevate.
how saturated can that market get? And what does that actually produce?
Well,
it's just pure
pretty
entertainment.
Yeah.
But
But what is
entertainment's
that-
money,
but
baby.
Brittany
and
would
it's
rather-
It
money
is,
and
but
money.
what
Brittany
is it-
would rather churn out podcasts
But
than
what is
Nike hoodies
But what is
in a
it?
sweatshop.
But
Same
what
with
does it
that.
For
actually
$1 a day.
produce for society?
Yeah. Well,
Laughter and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that-
Information,
But
knowledge.
with no
We're teaching.
food, houses, cars,
Tariffs or-
electricity, phones, no actual products.
I can
No
make-
one's gonna want to be
clothes.
laughing and
Ryan,
and,
I've got a master plan. I'm going to be making books, clothes, television
and
shows.
where are you going to make those clothes? Some plan in China to send them over
Well,
all embroidered
no,
and
because
stuff
Trump
that we
just
send
told
out?
me
Drop shipping.
Yeah, Trump just said I can't do that anymore because
There
I'm
you
Oh,
go.
you can.
Yeah, but
You're
I'm
just
gonna be.
gonna have to pay a tariff.
Yeah.
and he's gonna want you to make that shit in the United
I'll
States.
do it
That's
here.
exactly
That's
right.
fine.
but
I'm
it'll
proud
cost you more.
to make it here. You know what? That's fine. I like to make things sustainably and ethically. I like that. I'm not mad about that portion. And if it costs us more, that's one thing. But like, I need to be making enough to. It needs to all be balanced.
Well, that's why all those things that say like
And it's not.
made in
It's
the
not.
USA.
Right.
That's why they're all so
If I'm-
expensive, and it's
right.
not that good of a
If I'm
product
buying-
because labor costs here are expensive.
Right. If I'm buying something and
we
selling
don't
something,
have sweatshops in China where you pay someone a quarter a day for 12 hours of
Right.
work.
And
It
by
needs to be
Trump
good.
implementing those tariffs on goods coming from China, he's trying to make our markets a little bit more competitive. But it sounds to me like you're not buying into that really working out.
I mean,
and I agree with
I
you,
just don't
but-
think the American people can withstand that sort of pain for that long time.
Mhm.
Because people aren't gonna like it. We're too like coddled. We're too like,
There you
oh,
go.
I need my fucking
We don't want to
cappuccino. Yeah,
No
exactly.
crying in the sweatshop.
Yeah, no. Oh, I gotta do labor.
No crying in the
Shut up,
I
sweatshop.
don't
Jimmy.
want to do any labor.
make
You
another
know?
sweatshirt.
And China is making fun of us with all these AI generated videos of like fat Americans working in sweatshops and stuff. You know, with like a Trump banner in the background, like a Trump face. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
I
yeah, it's
believe
getting
it.
real. So they're
No.
poking at us. They're like, yeah, you want, okay.
yeah.
Oh, you want
wanna
all
be
the
one?
labor? You wanna do all the
You wanna
labor?
do it?
That? You want to do it? You want to come sit here? Do it.
Yeah,
You don't
do
have
it.
Let's see
billions
it.
of people like we do.
Yeah. So I don't
that are
think
willing to do the
so
sad
it's going to
stuff.
be.
Yeah,
and
no, it makes me
another thing
sad.
too is even if we could bring all the factories back to the United States to make America great again, in the next 5 or 10 years, automation's going to have 2 people at the dang factory anyway because the
Yeah.
robots are making
Yeah,
absolutely
we were just talking
everything.
about that the other day. Bill Gates was saying how
So
it's going to be a 2-day work
Elon's
week,
fucking.
and
Yeah,
AI is
post-labor
gonna take over
society.
most
We might
work.
end up in a post-labor society where it's like
Yeah.
people don't have to work anymore. Like you work if you want to, but really it's about self-actualization.
and most of the time you're asking AI to help you do it.
Now we're not in a post-labor society yet, but we're getting there.
We're close. We're very damn close.
15, 20 years.
We don't need 50,000.
Before we
algebra
die, I think
teachers.
we
need
might
one
see
good one.
It
100%.
a major shift.
I think the kiddos now are never going to have a driver's license.
That's scary to think.
Have you thought about that?
No,
They're never going to get one
Our
They
kids
just get in a
because by the
Yeah.
time
They get in
they're
a
of
fucking
age,
Waymo
it's-
everywhere.
Bro,
Yeah.
it's all going
or
to
self-driving or
That's a Waymo.
flying.
They're not going to need to learn how
You
to
and those,
drive a car.
you and those
So-
self-flying cars.
So
Brittany's like,
automation, AI, that's coming for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, we're living it, you know.
I want flying cars before I die.
dude.
So we have a hard time with just getting left and right, correct? Adding up and down is going to be killer, but we might
Oof.
get there.
I don't want people driving them. I just want to like see it happen.
We're already seeing it.
Yeah.
Have you seen some of the flying
you
cars?
see those
Yeah.
Yeah,
fucking
they're out there.
crazies
They're
that get in the
little, too.
Waymo
They're
and sit
little,
in the
too.
back?
Yeah, have you done that?
No, fuck no.
But you've seen them around.
Ryan
I
Yeah.
refuses to
one
get
to
in
my
one.
house.
Dude, I see
Have you taken
Waymos
one?
I haven't yet.
everywhere.
I thought about doing a
I have a couple
YouTube
friends
video
that
though,
have.
where I just
Like,
order
should
one.
we
People,
vlog it?
people haven't seen.
Do you
it.
want to vlog it? And if we crash, at least it's like
Yeah.
legal suit. We have a lawsuit.
Dude, isn't
And-
Waymo
and it's-
born here in the Arizona too?
I think so.
I think it's California, but they're testing here.
I'll look it
But I
up.
think they're
Oh.
owning. You should look that up.
I
But
thought
my
they were
understanding
like
is that's a California company
okay.
that's using us as the
Testing
Where-
grounds?
100 dude. So
Was
that our hobos
Waymo
get hit
Yeah.
by
founded?
the murder robot.
Dude, I remember there was like a big lawsuit for Waymo because
Hit
women
homeless.
bicyclists in Tempe got like ran over and killed by
Yeah.
a Waymo.
You're right,
we
Mountain View,
took the hit for
California. It was a Google self-driving car project.
Yeah.
That was what it was formerly known as.
So the way things are going, guys, like, do you
2009.
think Trump is even going to bring back all these high-skilled, well-paid manufacturing jobs? Even if he brings the factories back, we're only going to put like 5 people in them. It's not going to be the
Not to begin with.
The
Not to
career
begin with.
renaissance, he thinks, right?
Not to begin with.
Yeah, I think he's just a little bit out. So here's my thing. Not to hate on the boomers. And this is all government, not just Trump. Their idea sounds great in theory, but what I think they're not considering is what we were just talking about and how their 10-year plan, technology is going to beat that plan. And like something is going to change where like they can't keep up. They can't keep up. Like, or like, you know what I mean?
Technology is going to stick a fork in it.
Right.
Technology could get in the way of it. Maybe we don't even have the demographics to support a rebirth and renaissance in manufacturing.
No.
Meaning,
he's like manufacturing cars. Let's bring back the jobs. It's like, no, bro.
Enough, like,
you think all the teenagers that are trying to get famous on TikTok want to
learn how to make
work
cars?
at a fucking manufacturing plant?
Every Joe Snow,
right?
Yeah,
no.
that's mad about his job being gone. He's like a 55-year-old man.
Or will it be a high-paying job like Trump?
Probably not. Well, because mostly I guarantee you're gonna be just pressing buttons. You're just gonna be a button pusher, like
not unless our economy gets reset,
McDonald's or some shit,
and we maybe back our dollar to something like worth something.
Yeah.
Besides like air.
Yeah.
And
like that's a problem.
Make it worth to gold.
Yeah.
Then maybe the jobs be well paying. Other than that, it'll be like, oh yeah, come build the new Tesla models at Tesla Manufacturing for $15 an hour.
Yeah, you keep driving home the whole losing reserve currency status.
Yeah.
Then
that's like a real
that is
thing.
The biggest concern. Yeah, that's a huge.
The dollar is not going to be king forever.
It's a separate conversation, but
unless we have another world war.
But it's a huge issue, and it'll totally shape the next 5-10 years. You're absolutely
And if
right.
we lose that shit, you best believe there's going to be another world war.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, they'll
There'll
take
be a
you to
world
war for that.
Oh,
they'll take
hell
you to
yeah.
war for world.
And
reserve
they'll
currency
use
status.
propaganda, all sorts of shit to just be like, oh yeah, they fucking bombed our city or what. They'll say whatever.
Yeah,
but it's
they will.
all
They'll
about
false
the
flag
money.
Yeah,
They'll false flag the
you
shit
got
out
your
of that.
tinfoil hat, but you should.
I got my tinfoil.
Yeah,
hat
but
on,
you
dude.
should. You should.
They're gonna take. We're gonna get flagged.
It's true.
They're gonna take
That's
this video
why.
down. Government's gonna find this video and be like, flag
They'll
them.
just throttle it.
Hey, that was
They're just gonna
That'd be
like
cool.
the algorithm's just gonna kill it.
Yeah, we're
They're
gonna
just
get
gonna make
no
sure
views on
like
this video.
nobody watches it because they're gonna be like,
Cool.
"No,
So
the
Coachella's
robot
cool.
does not like what you said."
Let's get us back up in the algorithm. Coachella,
Billie
Green Day,
Eilish, Green Day,
Like,
it's doing good.
wake me
But
up.
yes, the tariffs are an import tax. The tariffs are an attempt by Trump to balance out trade. He does not like trade deficits. He wants fair trade.
Mm.
The tariffs are an attempt for the U.S. government to collect some tax revenue from the tariff
Right.
and fund the deficit and whatever government initiatives they'd like to fund. And it's also to repatriate manufacturing. So those are your three reasons why Trump's pursuing it. But do I think he's going to be able to pull it off? I would say 80% of the table thinks this is a bit of a gamble and a long shot and probably not worth pursuing. Tariffs, like we talked about earlier, you're raising barriers for trade. You're undermining competitive advantage. You're undermining comparative advantage. You're making the market less efficient. You're pretending like you'll be able to guess the knock-on effects correctly. Because what Trump would like is to nudge Canada with the tariffs, nudge Mexico with the tariffs, and then have them both bend the knee and meet our
He's
concessions.
trying to like bully them into doing something.
A
that
little
he
bit.
wants.
And if you're saying so, but what is the overall end game Trump wants for our allies? Well, the answer to that is actually no tariffs. So what the way it works is first, Canada and Mexico each had maybe like a 5% tariff on goods that we were sending there to access their markets.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to go. Trump wanted to up the ante. Basically, Trump saying, "Okay, you're doing a 5% tariff on us. We're not doing any tariff on you. Watch this. I'm going 10%.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you bring here." Now I'm putting a 10% tariff on. And the idea is that they come to the table and they go, okay, Trump, what do you want? And Trump says, stop the flow of fentanyl into the country, tighten up your border, buy more of our stuff. You do all those things, we'll get rid of the tariffs.
That sounds
Doesn't
so
that-
easy.
Trump overall wants to get back to a place where with our allies, there's no tariffs.
But
And
doesn't
there's
that
just-
kind of give like credence to Trump's overarching theme that we've been getting boned? Because as soon as we do a tariff that's a little bit higher than what the countries have been doing on us, they're like, oh shit, no, like how can we fix this, dude? You're like about to bone us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind
He's
of like
hoping they have that reaction
Yeah.
and come to him and say, dude, let's
well,
talk.
they kind of
we'll get
haven't
rid of
because
ours.
they've been like, oh, well, then we're just gonna raise ours too.
This gets
And
to
then
the
he's
heart,
like, yeah,
and this
see,
gets to the
because
heart of
we
the
have
problem.
been kind of getting boned.
And but this also gets to the heart of the problem. Trump's trying to get Canada or Mexico to bend the knee and meet our concessions so that ultimately we can get rid of all tariffs. But what if Mexico just says, dude, they're being buttholes to us, pick up the phone, calls Brazil and said, let's do business, or let's go to Europe.
Well, Mexico's probably
And
also
what if
like
China.
They
What
do
if
like a side
China
deal.
goes, hey, Mexico, hey,
Yeah,
Canada,
let's get together
I hear
and-
the U.S. is hitting you with tariffs.
Do you guys
want to
come over to our side?
We won't do anything.
We have
won't mess
soybeans.
with you.
Well, let's play.
we have
And
soybeans
that
just
could
like
happen.
Fuck with
America.
America.
And what
some more.
happens when our
Then we're
allies
screwed.
now are, you
Yeah.
see? So Trump's playing with fire
then
here.
they
Right.
don't
Because
want our dollars.
Trump is trying to tell you, like, I'm certain on the outcome. I'm certain I'm
He
going to be
doesn't
able to
know.
Yeah,
get
he
our
has no
allies.
idea.
But he has no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe our allies run away. Maybe our allies
Yeah.
hit back.
It's like playing
harder.
poker.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's a gamble.
Who's got the
Mhm.
most?
And if you want to go, okay, it's a gamble. What are my odds? It's 80-20. So
Mhm.
80% this is a bad idea.
Right.
20% you pull this off.
this works out, yeah.
And if it works
do-
out, that's great.
Oh yeah,
do
yeah.
you
Because then the manufacturing comes back. We get back into a balance
Jobs
of
go
trade.
up, people get jobs. Like,
Is this like
all sorts
a
of
day by day thing though? Do you think he could eventually just be like, you know what, guys, we're pulling back, or is that going to hurt
Oh.
his pride? He's not.
No, he'll pull back,
He'll pull
especially
back.
if
He
we.
already has.
Especially he
Yeah.
already has.
Yeah.
Seeing the
So-
market
so,
and
like,
how it's hurting the
keep
economy
up
so
with
bad.
the
So-
weekly news,
Right. So
Mhm.
so about a week and a half ago, when he hit the rest of the world with the reciprocal tariffs, and that included pretty steep tariffs on even like our closest allies,
Mhm.
that sent markets into a tailspin because the stock market today is
We
trying
were
to price
teetering
in.
on like recession prices, right?
So we were
We were
already
close to
So we were
30%,
already
right?
dealing. So we were already dealing with leading indicators pointing to a recession back in like January. The yield curve was already inverted. It uninverted. We had leading economic index pointing towards a recession. Consumer sentiment pointing towards
Is
a
there
recession.
like
Manufacturing PMI pointing towards a recession. So we were already staring down
I
the
have a
barrel of a
question.
recession when all this popped
I have a
off.
question. Is there there's like a freezing temperature 32? Is there like a baseline for like when we hit recession, like a number?
No,
So,
because
okay.
they changed the definition of recession every time.
Okay.
So they
'Cause back in, what was
you
it,
want-
2020
you
or
want
2021?
We're
that-
about
no,
to
do
be
you
in
want your
recession. I'm like,
32
how do we
degree?
know?
Do you want it?
They always
Here it
use
is.
that.
Yeah.
2 quarters or more of negative GDP.
Is recessionary.
Gross domestic
But
product.
when that happened in 2022, they
Was it
like,
2022?
Yeah, they like
Okay.
changed the definition of
They're like,
recession.
nah,
"Oh, we didn't have
it's
one.
not really one.
No, it's all good.
We're still good. Look at the job numbers.
That
don't
sounds right.
don't wait to feel like
Yeah.
we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of people right now will tell you we're already in one.
Yeah.
A lot
that's
of
what I'm
people will
saying.
tell
Like,
you
we-
we're about to be in
yeah.
one.
I'm like, what is it?
A lot of people are telling you there
There's
isn't
none.
one. Yeah, right.
You talk to people in
And-
real
and-
estate, they're like, no,
so the
recession.
saying is a depression is when you lose your job, and a recession is when your neighbor loses their job.
Well, we're
So when your neighbor loses their
getting
job,
close.
that's a recession, and when you lose your job, that's a depression. You know, so it's always a moving target. you
So
know.
I got a
We're getting
question. Is there with all these tariffs and stuff, how does crypto or the whole Web3 atmosphere play into effect in this, or does it even have one? Or
It
is that kind of
certainly
like
had one. It's just guessing. It's just understanding. Understanding it's really difficult. You know.
yeah?
Because
Because that's like a whole different marketplace that's not
Yeah.
even dealing with trade or whatever.
Yeah,
but yet
you're
it still
yeah.
fluctuates. The market of crypto still fluctuates along with.
So Bitcoin,
kinda what's going on.
Bitcoin's generally holding up well at about 86,000 or
Yeah,
82,000. And why is it
comparative.
holding up well? Think about it.
Well,
No,
Don't
you-
ask
you
me.
Tell me.
why?
Because it has
Yeah.
nothing to do
Well,
with
it's the
the
most
government.
it's the most powerful
Oh.
world asset
It
to
has-
be in alive.
It's
be-
a lot like gold in that it has no counterparty risk.
Yes.
So what
Oh.
does that mean?
Well,
There's not somebody on the other side to like
Yeah.
transact. You're buying the money. Like
Yeah.
you're buying the sound of money.
Money.
Right. So
Yeah.
gold's doing quite well.
Gold is
Because
actually
it
at
doesn't carry
all-time
counterparty
highs.
risk. Gold is work that's already done and stored. A stock price is me promising you I'm going to sell this many iPhones next quarter.
right,
Yeah.
and that's
So
very, very
Stocks-
volatile right
Gamble.
now. Yeah.
stocks
It's gambling.
are counterparty. I need like you on the other side of that transaction.
Gold is the work's done.
Gold's the work's done.
Give me the bar.
Give me
That
the
makes
bar.
sense.
Give
And
me the
that's my
work that's
bar.
already done and stored. Bitcoin is give me the work that's already done and stored.
Mm-hmm.
So sound money that's kind of like outside the game, that's been holding up really well because as countries start to like stab each other in the back, and as you have like trade wars and increase in counterparty risk, and people don't want counterparty risk, they might seek gold, Bitcoin. So those things are doing generally really well. Like if you had a Mona Lisa, that thing's like doing pretty good. The work is already done. It's already stored, as opposed to buying Microsoft stock where you're like, tell me how the tariffs are going to affect our revenue for the
Right.
next
Yeah.
Microsoft's like, we
3
don't even know
quarters.
how we're going to do, bro.
And that's why the stock market is like freaking out.
Right.
Because also the stock market is trying to price in where it thinks it should be about 6 to 18 months from now. So it's
That
a bit of a
makes
time
sense.
machine. So it's looking out in the future going, oh shit,
we don't know, bro.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why.
That makes sense now.
So the stock,
Yeah.
the
Why
stock
it's going
market,
so bad.
and that's also why the market is tanking and Trump saying this is just some short-term pain. Like stick with the program. Like stick with me through this.
Everyone
Because
does
the market
you
in
have
the
to.
short term has to reprice all these
Where
expectations,
else are you
has to
going?
try to guess the knock-on effects of all these trade wars,
Yeah.
and that's very difficult. So the market in the short term is having a really hard time. But what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent would have you believe is that the markets, Warren Buffett says this, the markets short term are a voting machine, long term are a weighing machine. So Scott Bessent would tell you, I'm more concerned about strong fundamentals. I want to do policies for America that just over the long term give us the best fundamental edge. So if that means pain in the short term, I don't really care, because over time the market's going to be more of a weighing machine and not a voting machine. So Scott Bessent would tell you, in the short term, the market's being a voting machine and it's turning on Trump and it's created a lot of uncertainty. But over the long run, if they get this right and they get policy right, it will reflect in the stock market.
Yeah.
You'll have stronger manufacturing. You'll have better
People
fundamentals
barely
for
have
the country.
savings as it is. So now that it's literally like gotten
I'm with you.
just obliterated and just like slashed in half.
And Brittany, you're bringing
It's
up a really
not
good
okay.
point too. The problem, Trump would have you think that the problem is the trade deficit, meaning China is selling $500 billion worth of stuff to the United States and then only buying $150 billion worth of stuff from the United States. And Trump would be like, see, that's the problem. That trade deficit is the problem, and we need to get into balance. But you know what the problem underneath the problem is? We spend more than we save. We consume more than we produce.
Mm-hmm.
That's the American way.
That's the American way. And that's the underlying problem.
I know.
And so we're in a situation where we're buying all this stuff from these other countries, and they're only buying a
We
couple
have no
bags
idea
of
what to do.
soybeans from us, and they're walking away with all the dollars,
Yeah.
Yep.
And we're just like,
It's
I
like
don't
my
know,
life
we
right
just
now.
need to consume more. Like,
very
just keep
relatable to my
feeding
life.
the beast.
I just keep buying all this stuff to support my life,
That's
and barely
American
anyone's
way.
buying anything for me. I might like to know it. Shout out my
yeah, that's the American way.
Plus-
Is to
Excuse
just
me.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's just like
Is
buy,
buy things that
and
you
hopefully
hope it
no.
works out.
It's
you
like
know?
sad,
It's
sad life,
consumer-driven.
but it's the truth,
Mhm.
and
It's a
it's
consumer-driven
yeah,
economy.
No, that's why I relate to
And
it.
it is. And that's where Trump gets his leverage to be a butthole is, well, Canada, you better start acting right if you want to access this American market. Mexico, you better start acting right if you want to access this American market.
Mhm.
Because what do we love to do? We love to buy
Consume.
Mexican
We love
Coke.
buying
We
stuff.
love buying
All types
Canadian
of
maple
their
syrup.
avocados.
We love buying Mexican avocados.
Right.
And we don't want them to be $7 each. We want them to be like
$1.50.
$1.50. We're riding the gravy
I
train.
know.
And
Mhm.
Trump's disrupting that. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of rocking everyone's
On top
boat.
of everyone else having a miserable time as it is, he's
Right.
really making people more miserable. It's not helping his case whatsoever. I can say that much.
And most people are against his tariffs. We gotta just, for what it's worth. Because again, if I say anything good about Trump, half the people have just left the room. And if I say anything bad about Trump, the other half the people have
Right.
just left the
You
room.
can't
But
win.
we gotta keep it real.
But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like I said, we're as humans, and I've always said this on this podcast, I'm here to try to make everyone or help everyone win as a collective. I'm not here to like pick sides. I want us all doing well.
Mm.
And like it doesn't at this point, I don't care who's in charge, whether it's, Trump or Joe Schmo or my grandma, whoever. I would hope that they are doing what's best for all of us, right?
Mhm.
And like I want to make sure that we're educated so that like if there comes a time where us as a society or as like United States like as a country need to revolt against, like
Mhm.
that we're educated enough to say like no, this is not this is not good.
Mm.
And we can then say, like, stand up and have a brain and be able
Mhm.
to, like, think for ourselves and know even, like, what the government's trying to tell us, because they're telling a lot of people stuff, and then people who just like to choose teams
Mm.
because of whatever reason, they just listen to whatever,
Yep.
and they're like, yes, tariffs, and they don't even
Yeah.
know what the fuck they're saying, signing up
Right.
for.
That's the
Mhm.
problem.
And like, we need to be more educated
it's
just
a
as a whole.
huge
Right?
problem.
It's
right.
not a left or a right thing. It's not like you're right or you're wrong thing. It's like, I just want everyone to know what they're signing themselves up for. And if
Mhm.
you want the tariffs, great, but know why you want them and know what the long-term result, or know what is going
That's
to
it.
happen to you in the long term
That's it.
And in the short term.
and in the
That's
short
it.
term, and then stand on that decision.
That's it.
But don't
That's the
tell
best
me
we can ask for. But we're in a situation now where it's like, okay, Trump people on the left,
Right.
anti-Trump people on
Right.
the right.
But don't
fight,
tell me,
you know?
yeah, you
It's
just don't
it's
like
just
tariffs
go to your
because of Trump.
respective camp. You
Right,
know?
exactly. There we go.
Yeah.
Trump haters on the left, Trump lovers on the right. If you want to be
Right.
more in line with actually how the political
Yeah,
spectrum
yeah,
works,
yeah.
but you guys get the idea.
Right.
It's just like Trump is God syndrome or Trump derangement
Right.
syndrome, and he's either the Antichrist
Right.
or like the savior.
Right.
And it's like, guys, can we just have a more nuanced
Yeah, this
discussion?
episode, and I hope it didn't come across
around-
as that. Right. Because
Right,
that's not
right.
really what this is supposed to be.
And honestly, I don't really have a dog in this
No.
fight in that I don't have Trump derangement syndrome
Yeah.
or Trump is God syndrome.
No.
Yeah, no.
None of us do.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, I've only ever voted libertarian. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Not that
Gary
that matters.
Johnson, what's an Aleppo?
Again, right? We can all be friends.
Yeah.
You can be friends
We
with
can be
people
friends.
that have a different political view than you.
Mhm.
Okay?
But-
Remember that.
Right. So just think for yourself.
Right.
Understand what tariffs are, their import taxes. Understand what's making Trump angry. That's trade deficits that he would say are very unfair.
Right.
Understand, though, that that's a nuanced perspective and might not be the full truth. And then consider, you
Yeah,
know,
think for yourself.
will it repatriate manufacturing? You know, will it give the government enough tax revenue to where they could maybe reduce my income tax, not tax me as much on my income because they've already taxed the product.
Mhm.
Will this work? Like,
Right.
what are the odds that we'll be able to get our allies to meet our concessions, start acting right,
Right.
so that we can ultimately get rid of the tariffs, open up both of our markets to one another, and truly benefit?
Think with our
So, yeah, you
brains
gotta
for a
think
little
with
bit,
all these
not our
things.
heart for a minute.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
And it's not saying there's a right answer, because I'm not. We,
We
don't
don't
know
know.
when knows.
No one knows.
And that's why this is such a complicated subject too.
Right.
Is because no one does know the
Right.
outcome.
But I just-
can't and in a week from now, guys, it's gonna be something will have changed.
Yeah.
It's
You
gonna
know,
be different.
Trump hit markets with the reciprocal tariffs about a week and a half ago. We saw the markets go into a nosedive. Then Trump came out on Tuesday night and tweeted, "Buy the market." And then Wednesday
Oh my God,
morning,
yeah.
he rescinded.
Literally
Oh,
3
man.
hours before he took all the reciprocal tariffs away, on his True Social, he said, "Now's a good time to buy."
Isn't that insider trading?
Well, if
Yeah,
he's
well,
telling
they're all
all
doing
the
it.
Americans,
That's
I mean, I don't
sketch.
know how inside that is.
And Goldman Sachs put out a recession warning.
But I'm
and then
sorry, that's
rescinded it
weird.
the
and then
next
But Mar-
day.
rescinded it the
But
next
Martha's
day.
going to jail for some guy telling her
Yeah.
to like maybe sell some
She
shit.
got
She
got
got the
got
short
the
end of
ru-
the
she
stick,
did.
dude.
She
Yeah.
got a bad deal.
Yeah, the president of the United States
What
says
Martha Stewart
now's a
did-
good time to buy, and then 3 hours later is like, I'm rescinding all reciprocal
He took him down to
tariffs.
10%.
Besides,
He
well,
took
yeah,
him down to 10%.
That's wild.
But he did
Besides
he did
China.
take them back.
yeah.
What
China.
world are we living in?
Yeah,
and
what
then, like, as
timeline,
soon as he
right?
announced that, the markets were like,
Pew! Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, up and down. Yeah, but just like confused
Up
as
is
fuck.
down is up.
They're just like,
1
what-
minute, Goldman Sachs puts out a recession warning, probably bought their own stock, then rescinded the recession
Yeah,
warning,
took it back,
sent it up.
And then they're like,
JP
wait.
Morgan, Jamie Dimon comes out last week. We're now 60% probability we're going to go into a recession. You know, so this is all like a moving target, and markets are just freaking
It's a
out, and
mess.
up is down and down is up, and there's probably illegal things going
Here's
on
the
in there.
lots of illegal
the problem
things.
is,
Guys, when Trump took back the reciprocal tariffs and just put everything at 10%, the stock market went up more in like an hour than the market's market cap 30 years ago. So we're in a situation now where
it's
like
really
the market will
volatile.
swing an entire valuation of the stock
In,
market
like,
just 30 years
24
ago.
hours.
So we're living in a new world
Right.
is what I'm getting at too. We're talking
Yeah,
about like
like
$7
companies
trillion
have, like-
swings by Brexit.
Sure.
Oh, look, yeah, way too much money. People have way
Well,
too much
and here's
money.
my thing.
Trillions
Here's my thing, guys.
sloshing around.
To the most of the population, the stock market doesn't really mean much to most people because there's not many people that have much money in there.
To
And
invest.
isn't that sad that
Yeah.
like
That's the biggest
10% of
issue.
our country owns like 90% of our stock market?
Yeah, and that's not to be embarrassed or ashamed because there are a lot of people out there that are.
Mhm.
We're all in it together.
The bottom
right? But
50%
that's
of
not
our
good.
country owns no stocks.
that's what I'm saying.
And they're just dealing with rising prices.
Right.
Because
They're
let's
just dealing
talk
with
about
rising
what
prices.
these tariffs are going to
And
do.
stagnant
They're gonna
wages.
make prices go
Right.
up. They're
Right.
going to stoke inflation.
Mhm.
Right.
So here's a little nugget for you too. I would expect, but I could be wrong, over the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to be experiencing elevated inflation. It's not going to be 3 or 4%. It's going to be more like 5 to 7% inflation. It's not. I don't think it's going to go into stagflation, double-digit inflation. But I think over the next few years, you're going to be getting hit with pretty heavy inflation.
But what are our
7,
wages
6.
going to look like?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's
The problem with wages haven't budged in about
Mr.
20
Trump.
years.
Yeah, there's
Wages
a lot
have
of-
not gone up. And
Yeah, I know. That's the problem.
wages keep going up 1 to 2% per year, and the stock market keeps going up 7 to 12% per year. And we've
Mhm.
been compounding that mechanism now for 20 years.
Yeah, but it's like, how are they supposed to expect to pay people more when they have to come back to America and make things for double the price? They're like, what do you want? Do you want us to pay you more, or do you want us to make it in America? I can't do
Well,
both.
that's why they would have to pay them more is if they made it in America because they have to pay their workers a livable wage, which
Well-
are livable wages.
Well, right, but plus the price of everything, like everything's gonna be more because you're gonna have to like,
Yeah. Labor input.
yeah,
costs.
because we don't make
to
half
pay
the
people
stuff
more.
and half the stuff I feel like that we need to make the stuff is still gonna have to come from other places. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
like you're still gonna have to
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
that
But not really.
import
Well,
tax
also
plus be having to pay more labor
Yeah.
costs to pay Americans.
with the whole
so
green
that-
movement, yeah, a lot of the materials will have to come and be mined from other places because
we won't do it.
We
the
won't do
USA
it
wants
here.
to be super green.
Mhm.
right.
So we're gonna
And
buy
like
it
We're
off
still
some
gonna,
user
we're still gonna
planet.
need the chips from
So
China
we're gonna
and
have
all
someone
that
else
stuff.
on the planet do the
Mhm.
damage so we can be like, wasn't us,
Right.
and then we'll be like, but we need that stuff though. Can we
Mhm.
use
Yeah.
that?
I feel like a lot of the stuff, even though they'll say it's made in America, some of the stuff is still going to come from parts of it
Oh,
are still going to come from China.
All the material
You
is
know,
going to come from
so-
all over the world.
So
A
that's
lot
the
of
thing.
it, yeah.
It's like you're just paying double the money to have your everything done here, and then still having to pay the tariffs to get stuff that you need for your product to be made. You're just double getting taxed. Like you're getting hit
Mhm.
double.
No,
Again,
you're absolutely right.
doesn't
make
and the
sense.
supply chains can't really accommodate all these changes in policy. They're very delicate
Yeah.
as is. So you're
Like
right.
as a business
You're
owner,
right.
like me just thinking
Imagine
of it
being
as a
like a
business
freight guy
owner,
now,
I'm like, no.
Oh god.
like trying to calculate freights for all these companies and stuff, and like prices and all that shit for
Imagine
shipping containers and stuff, like all that.
Imagine yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's a hot mess. Like I think of it as
Those
a
people are
business owner.
working
I'm just like,
overtime
absolutely
right now.
not. Absolutely not. I
Like
don't care.
mad overtime.
I don't care if you're Apple
absolutely-
or
you're
if
absolutely
you're.
right when you say that. Oh no, now tariffs have driven up prices at a time when like Americans are already really strained.
Mhm.
Like yeah, preach.
Yeah.
Like tell it
No.
because it's true.
Yeah.
Inflation's already really bad.
Right.
Wages have not kept up. Our
Mhm.
asset prices are already like
Through the
freaking
moon.
Through the
Yeah.
moon, so it's
Yeah.
already pretty bad. And then Trump's like, "Hey, I got a little import tax for you, and we're gonna call it Liberation Day." But the reality is, it's Republican tax hike day.
It's like
Yeah.
145%
Does that have the
tax
same
hike
ring
day.
to
What
it?
the
How's
hell?
the Republican
Doesn't
tax
sound
hike day?
great. Yeah.
Like, I thought the Republicans
what
like
in the
tax
hell?
cuts. It's like
Yeah.
this is Republican tax hike, baby, and it was.
It
Trump
really
just
was. Bloodbath.
Liberation Day, and what he means by that is you're paying more day.
Yep.
Tax on all your imports day. So if it's a Mercedes or a BMW, oh man, you're cooked. That thing just went up 25%.
Yeah.
You need a part for it. That thing just.
I have a
went up.
question though. Does
Mhm.
that raise the value of the price of like your current
Car?
Mercedes?
Yeah, probably.
Because like
Yeah.
now it's way harder to get and it's
Yeah.
way more
Mhm.
expensive.
Yeah,
So like
Yeah.
any
So
foreign
stop
car.
driving it.
yeah,
It's
but
like-
but it's not really like an appreciating
Yeah,
asset.
yeah,
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a-
Not
it's a
that
big- It's
good.
still a big mess
That's
Yeah.
why you
You're
have to
right,
stop
yeah.
driving it.
because a lot fewer of them are going to be coming over
over and being made.
because they're going to be charging a lot more now.
Right.
Too.
Mhm.
They're going to be They went up, 25%.
Especially maybe in this current year, so like the year of 2025, like that year when cars, BMWs are being manufactured, there might be like a rarity in the certain versions of the 2025 models or something like
Dude,
that.
is Toyota manufactured? It's in Japan, right?
What do you
Main Toyota plants.
Yeah, I'm not really
or is it China? Because I'm curious, because maybe my Camry is like worth a lot more than I bought it for.
I don't know, but maybe
maybe
because they're like harder to buy.
so guys,
Yeah,
they're estimating the tariffs have caused cars to go up anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000.
That's still a lot of money.
And the new
I'll say an
cars
extra 15,000.
have gone up a lot, but so have the used cars
what I'm
because
saying.
guess what? People can't buy the new cars.
Yeah, no one
now.
can afford a brand new
So
car.
now the used car market is gonna explode.
Mhm.
So what's really going up is Toyota Corollas, like because
The
everyone
older
wants
ones, yeah.
one now.
Yeah, Toyota Corollas are like
4Runners,
45
baby.
grand now.
Yeah, they're going to be going
Yeah.
up because everybody's going to be wanting that. They're not going to want to spend an extra 25% just to get an already expensive BMW or Mercedes. Price
Yeah.
of those things just went up. Prices of parts. for
People are
those
being
things just
priced
went
out
up
for those vehicles.
100%. So they're all going to pivot to the used car
Their
market.
purchasing
and then that's
power
gonna
is
bubble
being
up. So
stolen.
you see,
Yeah.
you can't really run.
Yep.
So yeah, the tariffs probably doing a little bit more harm than good. We'll see if Trump pulls it off. It is a gamble. We'll
Yeah.
see if he can pull it off.
Time will only tell.
We'll see if he can make the trade balance a little bit more even.
Stay tuned.
We'll see if he can repatriate manufacturing. We'll see if he can get these other countries to just buy more American stuff. I mean, that would be a big win for Trump, is if he can just nudge Canada with the tariff stick, nudge Mexico with the tariff stick, and just get them to buy a lot more American products, to
Well, America
narrow
has to
that
make a
trade
lot
gap,
more
to
products in order
We've
for
already
other
talked about
countries to do
this.
that.
yeah. So you guys got the.
We
you guys
get
got
it.
the gist of
Yeah.
I hope that.
Stay
kind of explains
tuned
things.
and check out Stone's channel because he's going to be talking about this more, and we probably won't.
Stone already uploaded a video, I think.
Yeah,
He
I
did.
Trump's
That's
tariffs
awful.
and
I
deciphering.
just feel like we're
Unavoidable.
beating a dead horse. We,
Yeah, I
we
think we
know
got
the
the-
issue.
Yeah.
we know you.
You
did a great job.
Everything out. I hope
Stone's
I did.
my
I don't know.
best
We'll have to
teacher.
see.
Whenever I need a question answered,
He's my finance guy.
if I don't
We'll
ask
see.
Chat GPT, I ask Stone.
But remember, we're all working on quite incomplete information. So
Yes.
I'm not.
Yes.
I might be wrong, right? Like maybe Trump, lo and behold, was right, and being a protectionist was a good idea.
Maybe
And Mike came on the podcast and said tariffs are a bad idea, and he was wrong. So there's a possibility for that
Of
too,
course.
you guys.
Of course.
Just take it all with a grain of salt. But I hope it helps you at least kind of understand where Trump's coming from, and
Yeah. Just want to make it more digestible, layman's
Yeah.
terms type stuff.
Yeah.
And check out our other episode, the cryptocurrency episode. It's a little outdated, but it's still good. It's still
Yeah.
worth a listen.
it's
Yeah,
not outdated.
for sure.
Bitcoin's still the supreme asset on
That's
planet
it.
Earth.
I'll link it.
Yeah, Bitcoin's done pretty well even since then. The whole space pulled back a little bit, but Bitcoin's holding up quite well,
Mhm.
So
I think
Yeah,
you
take
did
a
a
look
great
at-
job. Thank you for being here.
yeah, thanks for having me, you guys.
Take a
It's
look
been really awesome.
At his channel. Check
Yeah.
out his channel.
We'll
do
leave
that
a
for-
link
MC
or something
Stone?
in the comments.
Yeah, we'll link it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll link
in the comments.
description.
Swing by, like, subscribe, comment, share, whatever. You guys
That's
are
right.
awesome,
That's
and
right.
we'll just keep going. All right.
We'll keep doing
You're
it.
awesome.
All
Yeah.
right.
Bye.
Bye. Love you guys.
Peace.